and let us all do we can to build a better future.
A nice, detailed apology letter. Marianne Williamson. I know, folks. I hope you're sitting down. Folks, breathe in, breathe out. Marianne Williamson has suspended her campaign. I know. We're all shocked. She was the next Bernie Sanders. I mean, Kyle and Crystal were banking it all on her. Woo! It's over. The dream is now over. It's over. It's done. It's done now. Not that, I'm surprised because, we all kind of knew that it was going to be a piss poor campaign. From Political, Marianne Williamson ends her 2024 presidential run. Why, God? Why? There was so much. This was the next big thing. I mean, there's no way Kyle and Crystal were wrong on this, were they? Marianne Williamson has suspended her campaign for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination after coming in second in the South Carolina primary within just 2% of the vote. The self-help author challenged President Joe Biden from the left, adopting most of the last presidential platform of Senator Bernie Sanders. But Williamson struggled with raising money and lack of organization. Really? Because we got a comment from one of the organizers. Her campaign is in debt, and more than a dozen disgruntled staffers have been left in its wake. Probably because they had to deal with all her rage all the time. A churn of Williamson's campaign staff was constant over the course of her 2024 bid, particularly in the early months of her campaign. A mix of firings and resignations dwindled the operation to a skeleton staff, mostly focused on in-person events in early voting states. Williamson polled higher and won more votes this time around than during her 2020 campaign, which was also plagued with staffing problems because apparently she has some rage issues, okay? Ask Daryl Nixon, okay? When he was just asking her questions, and boy, did she snap at him. But she was not able to build a broader coalition that threatened Biden's claim to the nomination because it was never going to happen. The Democratic National Committee chose not to host any primary debates and largely ignored Williamson's candidacy. Sneezing on air. It's the one thing I always dread. Why? Sneezing on air. During the course of Williamson's campaign, she went through 4 campaign managers, of whom Carlos Cardona, a local New Hampshire poll, had the longest tenure. He announced his departure from the campaign after the New Hampshire primary when Williamson got 4% of the vote. I read a quote the other day that said, "Sunsets are proof that endings can be beautiful too." Oh, God. You know what? I'm not going to read this. Here. Revolutionary Blackout Network. Marianne Williamson, are you going to endorse Joe Biden? Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. Type 5 for Kit. She's a free-thinking person. She will endorse third parties and independents. She's not going to fall in line with the Democratic Party. A type 6 for, she's going to endorse Joe Biden because her campaign's in debt. And she ran as a Democrat. How do you think this game is played, baby? So much to be grateful for. Boy, just the way she's staring at me. It's just sort of like this ice-cold stare, like, don't you dare mansplain to me, Kit Cabello. I gave my 2 cents to Nick from RBN and said that he was a mansplainer too.
I read a quote.
Wait, hold on. It's also the stare right here of like, bring me the child. Okay. I'm sorry. Gotta be professional.
I read a quote the other day. It said that sunsets are proof that...
The way she said that, hold on. I'm going to rewind it again. Just the way she said, I read a quote the other day. I heard that people, if you go for their jugular, they bleed out and then they die. It's like, what, Marianne?
I read a quote the other day that said that sunsets are proof that endings can be beautiful too. And so today, even though it is time to suspend my campaign for the presidency, I do want to see the beauty. And I want all of you who so incredibly supported me on this journey, as donors, as supporters, as team, and as volunteers, to see the beauty too. There is so much for us to take from this. And that includes knowing that we laid it down in ways that we should all be proud of. We spoke for those who could not speak for themselves in this society. We spoke for those whose lives are falling apart, at least indirectly because of bad public policy. We spoke of those who are struggling because of environmental crises, because of racial crises.
Listen, she's going to endorse Biden. She's going to say we got to vote for Biden because Trump's a threat. Okay. Just a spoiler alert. Okay. I'm going to title that segment as soon as it makes an announcement, like, as soon as it makes an announcement, like, hey, who's shocked by this? Democrat candidate endorses Democrat candidate.
Because of criminal crises, because of economic crises. We did what we could to shed some light in some very darkened times. For that, I will always be so grateful.
Yes, darkened times. Here she is, Marianne splaining to us. She's Marianne splaining to us why she ran a terrible campaign and people tried to advise her and helped her. All what her campaign was nothing more than a glorified book tour.
I take memories in my heart that will last forever. And particularly for those of you who are young, who felt that in this campaign you saw hope. I want you to remember that that which is most important does not end on this day. The story itself is so long, the American story. The arc of history is what matters. And the ideas that we stood for, the ideas that are articulated, ideas you can still go to Marianne2024.com and you can read those issues pages. You can think about running yourself. You can think about being part of the longer story of American history. And no, not every individual effort succeeded for everyone who ever tried to make some progress. But anytime we put out that ripple of hope, anytime we put out any good idea, anytime we shed light in a darkened sky, then that light will remain and the darkness shall be less.
Oh. There are still good people in Gotham. Give me time.
So you go forward and you take it from here, and I will be with you in whatever way unfolds for me. This one campaign is over now, but that larger arc of American history, it goes on. And it is my deepest hope that we in some way contributed to that larger story. And if you feel that it did, if you feel that you have a deeper appreciation of the promise of America, and of your responsibility to do something about it, to bend that arc in the direction of greater justice, greater hope, greater inspiration, and greater life for the millions and millions of people who live in this country or are affected by our policies around the world, then this campaign will have succeeded. And for that, I thank all of you who helped it succeed. I take your love.
All 5 of you. Thank you. Well done. All 5 of you.
With me, I take your support with me. And I know that, as with every ending, it's always a new beginning. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I bless you. We bless.
She blesses you. I bless you. Now go forth and do my bidding.
This country, and let's also bless this world. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, all right. Everything that has a beginning must and will have an end. That is true. I also want to pull this up here. Peter Dow writes, Dear Marianne Williamson, when I ran your campaign in early 2023, it was clear that there would be no Democrat primary. I urge you to consider running as an independent. The power to move now is to ask your 570,000 TikTok followers to support the anti-duopoly, anti-genocide candidates. Well, look, I'm not a fan much of Peter Dow. I don't know if he signed an NDA overall, what he could say and what he not say. I know there's a lot of people who signed NDAs with Marianne Williamson's campaign. So I don't know what people could say, what was going on behind the scenes. If that was the case, okay. But here, I said it even early on the show that anyone who's running the Democratic primary was wasting their time. They were all wasting their time, including Cenk. Like, look, I'd have a little bit more respect for Cenk's campaign. I know this is saying much if he actually ran as an independent, because we all know the Democratic Party, it's rigged. We saw it in 2016, we saw it in 2020, and we're seeing it now in 2024. And it's going to be the same way, because the Democratic Party is a system in which the establishment's going to pick their candidate, and that's that. They got a thing called superdelegates. So if you're participating in the Democratic primary, okay, if you're going to support the establishment candidate pick, okay, great. It's a participatory vote. The superdelegates at the end of the day decide who's going to be the nominee. The establishment decides, and behind closed doors, who's going to be the nominee. We saw it not once, but twice. It's been going on. It's been going on even before the Bernie Sanders campaign of 2016. This shouldn't surprise any of you. It shouldn't surprise any of us. Once the decision is made by the donors and the bigwigs of the party, that's it. That's who they pick. Next, Dean Phillips will probably resign. I don't know if Jenks will still be in there. We'll see what happens. Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. Who do you think is going to last longer in the Democratic primary now? Type 7 for Cenk. He's going to go all the way to the end. Or type 8 for Representative Dean Phillips. Who will last the longest in the Democratic primary? Who's going to go all the way to the convention here in Chicago? And yes, we here at Hard Lens Media will be covering the DNC convention in Chicago. More details soon, and check it out. But until then, guys, the dream is over. I'm pretty sure Kyle and Crystal are recovering, and we wish them all the best. The dream is over. Marianne Williamson 2024 is done. I wonder when she'll apologize to Nick, though. Who knows? Nick was mansplaining to her. Shame on Nick. Nah, I kid you. I kid. But it is just pointless now, seeing how the Democratic primary has been playing out for 2024. Was anybody really paying attention to it? Some people were. But it's going to fizzle out very soon.